Hello there everyone and welcome to episode 11 of PSHE4You, a podcast to do with everything PSHE. You're joined today by myself, Paul, Health and Wellbeing in Schools.
And Vicky from the Public Protection Partnership.
And Caroline, also from Public Protection Partnership.
Today we're going to be talking about unhealthy relationships. Last time we were talking about healthy relationships, but today we're looking at the other side of that, unhealthy relationships. And we're joined for this episode by Jonathan. Jonathan, would you like to say hello?
Hi there. Hi, I'm Jonathan. I work with survivors of domestic abuse and their families.
Brilliant. Really glad to have you on today, Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming on and being with us today. So today we're going to be talking about unhealthy relationships. What do we mean by an unhealthy relationship? So I guess we talk about an unhealthy relationship being a relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, that causes harm to both our physical or mental well-being.
Okay, good afternoon, Jonathan. Thank you for being with us today. What's the difference between an unhealthy relationship and a relationship or friendship that is experiencing normal conflict and disagreements?
Well, we all think differently and we all hold our own opinions. And, well, life would be very boring if we agreed all the time. So being able to disagree well is a necessary part of any good relationship. Whereas in an unhealthy relationship, one person might try to force their opinion on the others and won't listen or even consider why they think or feel differently. In healthy friendships, people take time to understand each other's points of view. So that doesn't mean that they have to end up agreeing, but the friendship is more important to them than proving to the other person that they're right. It's more important to keep the friendship than always to be correct. So sometimes that means you agree on a compromise that you're both comfortable with. Or maybe you'll ask some people that you know for their advice. Maybe that's other friends or people with relevant life experience. So those healthy relationships are based on trust, on equality, on shared values. Both parties respect each other. They're friends. There's truth there. They negotiate. They support each other. But in contrast, an unhealthy relationship is based on someone using you. They're using you for their own ends. They're controlling your actions, your thoughts, your feelings. Maybe they're lying to you or bullying or just using emotional dominance.
Thank you. What are the behaviours or red flags to look out for in controlling or manipulative behaviour in a friendship or a relationship?
Well, think about how it's possible to listen to someone but still ignore them. It's possible to listen to someone and not value their feelings or opinion. Now that sometimes happens in obvious ways. Like if someone usually ends up shouting at you to make you do things their way, or threatens to hurt you physically or sexually, or makes you do something illegal, well, they clearly don't respect your feelings or your thoughts or your principles. Where money is involved, the abusive person might only let their friend or their partner, the person they're responsible for, they might only let them have the money for specific things. They're controlling how the other person uses their money. They might even take the money from them. Of course, sometimes there are good reasons to question how someone else uses money, like if your friend is spending it in ways that are harming themselves. But refusing to let the other person have any choice is a bad sign. But oftentimes, abusive relationships involve more subtle ways of manipulating the other person. The threat might be emotional. For example, do they say that if you don't do something, they'll be really upset, or that they'll hurt themselves or kill themselves? That's emotionally manipulative. If all of your happiness relies on pleasing someone else, you are far more vulnerable to being manipulated to do things which you think are wrong or feel uncomfortable about. in an unhealthy relationship, the abused person may start feeling guilty that they always let the other person down, even though they are already doing more than what would ordinarily be expected of them. So, some signs to think about, some red flags. Are you always asking the other person to forgive you? Another question, do you believe they are right to be angry with you? Maybe just think about if any of those things apply to you in the friendships you're in. Or do you experience someone always talking down to you as if they know better? It can actually be quite easy to start believing that, you're not as good. If someone's always telling you you're not capable of making a good decision, or that things just are a certain way. So, for example, if someone always tells me that men should never cry, then I might start believing them and hate myself whenever I feel emotional. Or if a woman is always told that she must never wear skirts or else she's being unfaithful as a partner, then she might begin to believe that, and she'll only wear what her partner says is okay to wear. Like, they're not thinking or acting independently anymore. They're just relying on what their partner is telling them. So listening to people outside that relationship is so important for realizing whether what you're believing is sensible. Do you have friends that you can talk to about what your other friends or your partner are telling you? Because it's so important for that person to be able to think for themselves, the person controlling a relationship often isolates that person from their friends, or they constantly check up on you and ask what you're doing, where you are, who you're seeing. So as you think about friendships and relationships you're in, do other people get angry if you don't reply immediately to their messages? And also, if you've noticed that your friend has stopped getting involved with social things now that they have a new relationship, what can you do to contact them?
Some really good information and some really good points there, Jonathan. But how can you support someone who you think is in an unhealthy relationship, but they don't appear to know, or they don't appear to think that they are?
Well, the really big thing, Vicky, is just talk. Try and speak to them when the other person isn't around. Bear in mind that the controlling person might check their phone, their messages. So if possible, talk face to face if they think it's safe to do so. Ask them about life before the relationship. Questions like, do you remember that time when we did that together? And do you miss those times? Could we have fun like that again? And if not, what's stopping you? The goal isn't like to guilt trip them into changing their mind, but to help them make an informed decision about their own social life. So a really key thing is just helping them to realize that they have their own mind, which they can use to think independently of their partner. And then help them ask themselves, which bits of the relationship, which bits of the friendship make them feel happier? And which bits would they like to change? Help them see that things don't have to be the way they are. It's possible that nothing is wrong, but stay in contact with them anyway. Keep an eye out for any changes in their behavior. We can support anyone over 16 here in our service, and there'll be information about us in a moment. But if you think anyone is in immediate danger, always call 999. It's important to speak to someone about your concerns. and you should try and get the consent of the other person before you do that.
Thank you very much for those thoughts, Jonathan. Now, you mentioned there that you can work with anyone over the age of 16. So if that does apply to anyone listening to this podcast, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
It would be really great if you want to just give us a ring. So we're open 8:30 till 5, Monday to Friday on our helpline. That's a free number, and you can ring 0800 731 0055. Or alternatively, you can ring the national helpline on 0808 200 0247, and they'll be more than willing to take your call, listen to what you're going through, and maybe just get a better sense of where you're at.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing those numbers. We'll also be sharing some links to some websites where you can have a bit of more information and resources around the topics of relationships, both healthy and unhealthy. And I would encourage you, obviously, if you're maybe listening to this and thinking about a friend or thinking about yourself, and you're not quite sure whether it's just normal relationship conflict you might be going through or something a bit more, I would encourage you, as Jonathan's mentioned, to see if you can talk to someone about that, whether it might be a friend, or if you need a bit of distance, maybe a teacher, someone that you trust at your school, or another adult that you trust. Really important to see if you can do that and get some impartial advice about it. So I want to say thank you so much to Jonathan for coming on today. It's been really great and really helpful to hear some of the things you've said. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of PSHE4You. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.